this video, we are going to build this perfectly square gravel pad and then build a sturdy 12-foot by 20-foot floor right on top. This is for our new workshop we are building in our backyard. We will go over each step and even break down the costs of all the materials as we go and reveal the total cost at the end. We have a nice shady spot already chosen. Our gravel has already been delivered, and the skid steer we rented is just waiting to be fired up. Since this is our first time using a skid steer, I want to give myself some wiggle room. So we are going to mark out an area larger than our gravel pad. We're hoping this will make it easier to level out a patch of land big enough for our gravel pad. A few things we learned with operating a skid steer. Number 1, it's much better to start on a level surface. If you start crooked, you will dig crooked. Number 2, you'll never want to pick up a shovel again after feeling its raw power. And number 3, don't let your wife use it to move mulch, or she will back up into your handmade patio chairs and then pull forward in a panic and break the decorative fence you built. We were able to level our ground in just a couple hours, and now we can quickly move on to marking out the corners for our gravel pad. In order to get this level and square gravel pad, we need to do a bit of math. We first need to start with 2 points. We know we want our pad to be 22 feet long. We also know we want our gravel pad to be 14 feet wide. But we can't just measure out 14 feet from one of those rebars, since we don't know if we are creating a 90-degree angle. Luckily, we can use the Pythagorean Theorem to find the exact diagonal length, and we will know exactly where to place our third corner. Let's just use Google's handy calculator. We just have to enter our 2 known lengths, which are 22 and 40. That brings up our result, which is 26.076. 0.076 is equal to 0.92 of an inch, just under 15/16. We will place our third rebar where the 14-foot measurement and the 26 and 15/16 measurement intersect. We can repeat the same steps to find the fourth corner. We are going to lay down a layer of gravel all around the perimeter first for our treated lumber to sit on. Come on, come on, come on. Stop! Stop! What happened? That's my foot. It cost us $255 for 4.5 yards of 3/4 of an inch limestone. We evened out the gravel with a shovel and rake, then started to place down our pressure-treated 4x6 timbers. It's difficult to see from this angle, but we are using a string and string level like this to ensure our timbers are level and flat. We just kept working at it until the timbers matched the string line. The next morning, we began drilling the holes that will anchor down our perimeter timbers. We had some 5/8 of an inch thick rebar that we then hammered down into the holes and down into the dirt below. The total cost of the treated perimeter timbers was $227.67. We left one of the perimeter timbers out for now. That way we can unload the rest of the gravel easily. We could have moved all this gravel by hand, but in my opinion, it was worth every penny of the $330.56 it cost to rent the skid steer. Luckily, we got all the gravel unloaded just in time, as we have to get this baby back on the trailer and back to the rental yard ASAP. Get out of here! I can park it on the trailer myself. I forgot to record us leveling the gravel, but we just used a long, straight piece of wood to ensure our gravel was level with the top of the perimeter timbers. Then we manually tamped the gravel down. However, looking back, I think we should have used a plate compactor. We started placing our skids down. We measured and ensured they were the correct distance apart and parallel to our already square gravel pad. The cost of the 4x6 pressure-treated skids was $136.74, plus another $24.09 for these 2x6s we use here for strength. We are using pressure-treated 2x8s for our floor joists. If we mark a line with our speed square, you can see this board is not cut at a perfect 90-degree angle. So we are going to square off each end by cutting a small piece off down here. Then, once they are squared off, we can measure and cut the other side to our final desired length. We need to account for the thickness of the two rim joists and also account for the tongue and groove on our Advantech flooring. We'll square off the end of the two longer rim joists as well. And then we are cutting these to a final length of 240 inches. We are going to mark our rim joists with guidelines for installing our joists. Since we are building 16 inches on center, this is very easy. At each 16-inch interval, we can place two marks. One will go 3/4 of an inch higher than the 16-inch interval, and one will go 3/4 of an inch lower. These two lines will show us exactly where to put our floor joists when we are installing them. We put these two lines on either side of all the red 16-inch intervals. Now we are going to flip them over and repeat what we just did, but this time we only need a single line right on the 16-inch interval. This is for the screws we're going to use to temporarily hold the joists in place while we install the hangers. Now we can partially screw in 2 screws per line. It might seem like a lot of extra work to prep these rim joists, but I am very, very prone to making mistakes. Spending a little time here could save me a headache later on. We dug through the joists we cut earlier and picked out 2 of the straightest boards. These will be the joists that are at the ends of our long rim joists and create our main rectangle. Now we can place in the joists, line them up, and then screw them in with our pre-installed screws. Here's an example of how the guidelines can help prevent problems. Not only can I easily see this joist isn't sitting correctly, but I can visually see when I have corrected it. Plus, we don't have to be kneeling down trying to measure out 16 inches on center all the time. We did that while standing comfortably. We are now going to add some solid blocking between the floor joists. I had some leftover 2x6 material, so I used that instead of buying more 2x8 lumber. This floor structure sets the stage for all our upcoming work, and we can save a lot of hassle by ensuring it's square, straight, and level right now. To check if you're square, simply measure both diagonal lengths. If the 2 diagonal measurements are equal, then it is square. If they are not equal, then we need to adjust it. We do this by tapping on one of the longer corners until our measurements are the same. We also used string to ensure our perimeter joists were perfectly straight, as it's possible to have equal diagonal lengths while also having curved edges. We are also going to double-check that we are level. I'm going to do this with a water level. It's a really cool tool, and it only costs about $50 to make. All you need is some flexible clear tubing, food coloring, a couple corks, and some water. To ensure accurate readings, you should always remove the corks and let the trapped air escape. Hold both ends of the tube higher than the rest of the tubing, and let the trapped air work its way up and out. We will use these 2 rebars to demonstrate how the water level works. When the liquid on both sides stops moving, we know that they have found their level. Make tiny adjustments to the tube until the water level in one side matches whatever it is you are measuring. You can then see how far off level you are by looking at the other end of the tube. There are many other ways to use a water level, but we will use this simple way for our floor. Remember to remove any corks, and don't seal the tubes when attaching. Just like with the rebar, we will keep adjusting the tubes until one side is level with the top of our joists. Almost! There we go, baby! As you can see, we are a bit lower on this corner, so we are going to have to raise this corner and try and get some more gravel under there. I could also put some shims between the joists and the skids, but I think I would prefer to adjust the entire flooring system. And look at that! Luckily, we got it very close on the first go. We will make sure all 4 corners are level, and then we will run a string line between all the corners to ensure the areas in between are also level. Once we got the floor framing square and straight, we connected it to the skids with these simple brackets. Instead of getting concealed hangers for the corners, we decided to just use some corner brackets. Hurry up, I'm slipping. Damn it! What is wrong with you? Have you never used a drill before? I could see that using screws on all the hangers was going to be a lot of work. So I did what any hard-working man would do and justified spending $166 on a tool that can only do this one specific thing. But boy, was it worth it. This nailer is specifically meant for nailing in metal connectors like this. You can see the nail sticks out, allowing us to ensure we are nailing inside the hole. I still need to manually put in the 2.5-inch screws because, unfortunately, the nail gun only accepts the 1.5-inch nail. This nailer will make installing the rafter connectors at the ridge board and the top plates go so much quicker later on. For the 2x8 joists and the hangers, we spent $364.08. We are using some subfloor glue to help stiffen the floor and prevent squeaking. The Advantech subfloor sheets we are using have handy little markings showing us where to nail. But if they were not there, we would nail every 6 inches around the edge and 12 inches on the interior on each panel. After replacing rotted-out subfloor in our pier and beam house due to the insulation trapping moisture under there, we decided to not include insulation in this floor. That's a job I never want to do again. For this 12-foot by 20-foot floor, the cost of all the Advantech sheets and the subfloor glue cost $360.21. This subfloor material requires a 1/8-inch gap around all the edges. This includes the tongue and groove edge as well. If you push them together too tightly, you will get raised edges or buckling when the sheets expand and contract throughout the seasons. This last sheet was pretty warped, so the only way I could get them together was to use some scrap wood to hold the sheet flat to the next one. This allowed me to hammer it in without having to worry about keeping the tongue and groove lined up. All that's left to do is cut the excess subfloor tongue off. That brings us to the end of this video. Our total cost to build the gravel pad was $482.67, plus another $330.56 to rent the skid steer. To build the floor cost $885.12. So, the total cost for all we did in this video was $1,698.35. In the next video, we will start framing up the walls, framing the roof, begin the sheathing,